Now I'd like to introduce Gayle Lettenmeyer, a volunteer with Courtwatch. She's trained for court accompaniment and is a trained corn confirmer, as well as an active member of Indivisible Denver Action and a volunteer with immigrant partnership teams. She's with us tonight to tell us about Courtwatch. Gayle, go for it.
Hi. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I had to kind of modify my situation tonight because my cat wasn't feeling well, so I had to hold her, but then she got up right as this started, so we'll
Oh,
see what happens. Um, if she comes back, you'll know because she likes to sit like right here. Um, but yeah, I wanted to Tiffany invited me to or invited Court Watch, and then I volunteered with Court Watch to say, hey, yeah, I can do the presentation. Um, Court Watch in Denver is what we're talking about. It's where we um first when we first mobilized in November, not November. Why am I saying that? In May, when there were rumors of ICE going to be at immigration court in downtown Denver. The immigration court in Denver is downtown, and there are 5 or 6 different courtrooms there. And so my understanding is that any immigrant in the process of being um, legalized, I guess, as being legal in the country. I'm losing my term on. Are required to go to court to be seen in court and fill out paperwork and all of this stuff. Um, and if they don't show up, then ICE has a order to pick them up. But ICE was also kind of cheating, we felt, and picking them up right out of the court as they were walking out. So we mobilized quickly, and there at the end of May, a bunch of people from Colorado Rapid Response Network, several indivisible groups, some churches, immigrant protection teams. Court Watch is made up of a lot of different units. I've tried to identify who they actually are associated with as an organization, but Court Watch has, here in Denver anyway, has become its own entity to some degree with a bunch of different people from a bunch of different concerned communities, such as this, as Solidarity Warriors. Um, so to date, there have been 10 detentions that we know of from the Denver Federal Immigration Court. There were most of the activity occurred in actually, yeah, there was some activity started in May. The most of the activity started in June. And then I actually didn't sign up and get trained as a court watch person until July. So I've been doing this since about mid-July. I go once a week usually, and we do what we can to keep an eye out. They're at court, in court, around the building as well. We station people outside the building to watch for immigrants coming to court. We are not allowed to hand them any uh, like flyers. What we have is a flyer with some know your rights information and some details about the court itself, along with some um, links, not links, but QR codes taking you take that they can go to for more information. Like if they would like to have somebody accompany them to court, or they need more information about how to fill out these forms. We have links to the Rocky Mountain Immigrant what does RMAIN stand for? Rocky Mountain Immigrant, dude, I can't think of what it's called. What are they? Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network. And they're a actual group of legal um, lawyers and legal folks that can actually provide legal advice. We cannot do that. Even if someone asks us, what should I do in this situation? We are not allowed to offer that advice. But what we can do is reassure them as they're coming into the building, as they're leaving the building, that we have or have not seen ice. I have gotten the privilege of not seeing ice, and I get to say, yes, we haven't seen ice today. I was actually just there today, and we had a little bit of a um, unsure event happen. We had an immigrant who decided he wanted to do a voluntary deportation, and the judge in this instance just wasn't very helpful, and it left everybody with questions. The situation ended up okay, but we had to kind of flutter around and figure it out for a bit. Um, so I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but I think I'm not really watching the chat, but I saw somebody ask something about volunteers. Yes, we are desperate for volunteers right now. Through the summer, we were fairly okay manned. We would like to have one or two people outside, and hopefully one person in each courtroom, along with somebody on the floor who can watch hallways, stairways, elevators, that kind of a thing. The security guards in the building don't like us to block hallways or anything like that. So oftentimes they don't like us standing in the hallway, but as long as we're not in the way of anything, um, they're usually very polite about it. However, there are instances where they have not been polite, and some people have less than good experiences. But I've also gotten to sit with inside the courtroom itself. Um, each morning they put up a docket. Each courtroom handles a good 20 to 50 people in the morning, and again 20 to 50 in the afternoon. The longer the list, the shorter the type of court they're having. There's a type where when the first thing they go into, the first court they go to is more of an informational. When you're asked you're on, you return for your next court date, you need to have paper, this paperwork, this paperwork, this filled out, that kind of a thing. They pretty much list off all of the things they need to have the next time they show up, and then they're told they're dismissed. Um, so there's a lot of things to watch for while we're there. And yes, we do very much need a lot of volunteers to cover this. Like today, during my shift, we actually sign up for 2 to 3 hour shifts. And so this morning I was on from 9:30 to 12, and there were only 2 other people there with me. So we weren't able to cover everything as nicely as we would, but what we do is we do what we can. So we had 2 people up on the 3rd floor where the courtrooms are, and then I stayed outside to hand out the flyers to anybody coming in, and watch for any possible ICE vehicles. One thing I was very if ICE would just look like the what we're told they look like, this job would be much easier. Except that they look like we do, and they're just a tad bit less friendly. Um, at the time, all I can do is from a hearsay because I actually haven't witnessed them that I know of anyway. They showed up with like baklavas that they could pull up over their face and hide real quick, and that's what they did right before they took the people, is my understanding. And usually dark, plain colored clothes. But like watching for vehicles outside, we watch for vehicles that could be federal vehicles that could carry multiple people in them. So American made dark colored SUVs are very suspicious to us, especially if they have their license plates covered, which oddly enough is illegal in just about every state that I know of. But I guess it's okay for ICE to have their license plates covered. Um, just a strange little thing there. Um, Vast majority of the immigrants we see coming through are Spanish speaking. There are some that don't. I am unfortunate in that I don't even speak a tiny bit of French. I had French in high school, so I barely remember it. And so I don't even know Spanish. Um, I usually will park the people who can at least speak a little bit of Spanish outside to hand out the flyers because they can actually talk with these folks. A lot of folks aren't bilingual, and we find that Google Translate works really well in these cases. It's been really handy to use that as a tool. Um, what else can I tell you about CourtWatch? The funny thing is the building that the court takes place in, while it is a federal building, the entire building isn't just court. It actually houses a lot of miscellaneous federal offices, including our Colorado State Senator John Hickenlooper's office. So, one thing that we could do is instead of saying, hey, we're here to observe court, we're here to speak with our senator. So, um, funny little things like that, because we've seen like a big, dark, shiny limousine type thing pull up. And while I didn't see the senator, was guessing that's probably what that big limousine was actually for. We actually watch the front of the building and the back of the building as we have time and resources to do so. Um, just because the main entrance to the building's parking garage is in the back side of the building. Um, what I was really surprised at the first time I sat through a court session was the monotony of it all, how long it took. And so many times the judge would ask the person, what documentation do you have? And the person would list off, I have a work permit, I have a social security card, I have a driver's license, and that is not any of the documentation the judge is actually looking for. They're looking for a specific form that says that they came into the country legally. And people are more familiar with it, remember the name of the forms. I can't remember them. But I was surprised to find out that the processes and procedures that are used to define whether they can work legally within the country are separate from whether they can be in the country legally. And so I could see how it becomes very disorienting and confusing for someone who is trying to enter the country as an immigrant to really understand that the processes and procedures you go through to be legal to work are not the same as it is to be legal in the country. Because that even confused me when I first saw it. And so it was very strange to me. Um, through this process, um, several things that have been really meaningful to me has been there was one morning this girl comes up, she's really upset, she doesn't speak English, but thankfully we're all breaking out our Google Translate on our phones and we're ready to translate, and what we find out is she's coming to the court a day early to see if the rumors about ICE being there and arresting people are true. Thankfully, at that time, we were able to tell her, no, we haven't seen any signs of ICE since, I think this was in August. We hadn't seen anybody since early July, and that we felt that she was probably safe. And she was so relieved just to have us there and have us watching and being able to reassure her so that then she could reassure her family for the next day. She actually even went, we told her, you can go up, you can go up to the floor where the courtrooms are. There's an information window. You can ask them at the information window anything you need to ask them. And so she did that. She felt much better and she really thanked us that day for being there. And that's one of the more rewarding things that happens while we're there is just seeing kind of people's faces as they are relieved to know that we're standing there watching, and thankfully we have not seen anybody, any ICE personnel come through. um, and then I've also heard from folks who have actually spoken with some of the judges that they actually appreciate our presence in the courtroom as well, because again, we are just giving that extra level of maybe accountability, not for them, but for the folks who are sitting there, knowing that somebody cares about them enough to go sit in the courtroom and watch with them to make sure everything is okay. So, with that, I think I'd rather just open it up for questions and see what kind of questions we've got going on at this point. Because I'm pretty sure I've probably forgotten to tell you about something.
That's
Um,
okay. I've been keeping a list of the questions as they come in through the chat. So
Good.
if you're ready, I'll go ahead and get started.
I'm
This
ready.
this is similar to the first question you answered. Do you record do you recruit court watch volunteers from DU Law School or pre-law groups for students at Metro, CU Denver, or paralegals from ACC?
Um, to my knowledge, we do not get that specific. We really just recruit volunteers. I have heard that DU has a court watch type program of their own, although I have not run into any of them at court. I think it's really a matter of when you're there and who you see. But actually that's an interesting idea. And you know what? I'm going to take it back to um the leadership team and say maybe we should knock on some of those doors, see if they're interested in joining us.
At the very least, if they already have a program, you can work together.
Exactly. And so like I mentioned our main, the off a lot of times they have a volunteer there, a legal, a lawyer type person who can give legal advice. Um, because in the state of Colorado, if you're not a lawyer, it's completely illegal to give any kind of legal advice. Um, so sometimes they have a volunteer that's there to help immigrants with whatever. A lot of the problems is they have to go to court to fill out like a change of address form, which the change of address form changes almost faster than anything else that changes. So every time you look at it, it's different. So they're there to help as well.
Okay. The next question we have is, are we allowed to ask people coming to immigration court if they'd like to leave their names and who to contact and contact info in case they are hemmed up while inside? Then if we see them coming out, we check their names off and only contact the loved ones of whoever does not come out. Maybe something like this, since we won't be able to talk to them once they're in custody.
Um, that's a lot more organized than that. um, in general, what we do is we don't try to get that type of information to that level as they're going in or coming out, just because a lot of times they're just going in to do a change of address form or something like that, especially on these days where, like today, there was not a sign of ICE anywhere. So it was kind of like overkill to do so much work. But on the instances when people were picked up, the volunteers there were able to get contact information from the folks who got detained so that we could contact their family for them.
Okay. That leads me into, this is the next question. What are the court cases and why do people have to come to court?
So my understanding is if you are, if you are, oh, what is it? You've applied for,
Asylum.
asylum. Thank you. I'm so glad yes, if you've applied for asylum, you have to show up in court to prove your case. And it's not just show up in court once, you have to show up in court the first time for them to, literally everyone seems to have this first beginning court date where they just go and all they do is go over a list of documents they need to provide. And that's all that happens on that one court date. And then they're dismissed and a new court date is given to them. Most of, I think most of the ones that I've been able to sit in on have been more kind of a checkup type thing. Just look, are you here? The judge asks a series of questions. Did you come into the country at such and such a date on such and such a location? And then what documentation do you have? And then she says, well, we need you to fill out this form, and the court clerk will provide you a date of your next court date. And so I believe that's the second court. And I believe they're in there at least 3 times before the rule whether they're going to accept your case for asylum or not. They can also, some of the cases, they can be told that no, they can't, and their case is being dismissed. And that's one of the worst ones, because if their case is dismissed, it means that then ICE is most likely going to pick them up because now they have no pending court case, and are totally just not in the country legally, is my understanding. So when the judge tells them, or asks them if they're, I don't know how it goes, but they can actually say, I don't want my case dismissed. And then they can extend it. And that's what they have to do so that they can't just be picked up as soon as they walk out the door. But I don't know all of the instances for which they all have to be there, but all immigrants who are going through asylum definitely have to go through this court procedure. And I believe anybody who's, I'm not sure about people who are actually legal, what they have to do, if they still have court procedures or not. Most of the ones I've seen have all been somebody came through and they didn't have legal documentation to come into the country.
Thing is, anyone whose like legal status has been challenged in some way, they either have to prove that they're legally or go through the asylum process to try to stay.
Correct. And there's a
Okay.
lot of people. Actually, for a while there, every time in July I would sit through a courtroom, everyone was either Venezuelan or Cuban. And I found that very interesting. Is just the uh, dynamics of that.
And
Okay.
as part of my internship, I'm a paralegal with an immigration attorney,
Oh,
and I've been watching the immigration courtrooms remotely. So I just dropped that link in the chat. So anybody can do that. You don't have to put your real name when it asks for your name. You can just put court observer. And just keep clicking on the next meeting link and the next one and open a bunch of them up and wait for one of the judges to let you in because they won't all let you in. And once in a while you'll end up in what they call a private hearing. And so then when they're like, who's court observer? You can't be in here. I'm just like, okay, bye. And, click close. But for the most part, you can watch some hearings. Most of what I've seen are deportation hearings for people who are in custody. One of the benefits to doing a self-deportation is that then you don't have the 10-year bar on reentry into the country. If you're legally deported against your will, then you can't come back into the country for 10 years in most cases. But if you self-deport, then you can apply for asylum or another way to legally enter the country. But the problem with self-deportation is you have to have the $500 or $600 on hand to buy that plane ticket to get back to the country you're from.
thank you. That's very good information. And I didn't know that. There's a lot of the legal parts that I wish I knew more about. And actually that kind of explains it. Like the guy today that chose to do the self-deportation, he got his plane ticket. I guess the judge gives him the plane ticket. But he didn't have any documentation other than that to leave the country because his ICE contact or caseworker had all of his documentation. So he had to go down to the office down in Centennial to try to get that documentation where he was told that his passport's in a different state. So they're supposed to get him his passport before he leaves the country in December on his flight, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay. The next question we have is somebody said they met you at Signs of Solidarity, and they were wondering, do you need more volunteers for Court Watch or Signs of Solidarity?
We need more. Well, it depends on who you ask. I would say we need more volunteers for Court Watch because we've got a lot of people doing double duty. Like the lady I stood in for today, she'd already been there since 7:30 by the time I got there, and she was going to stay until noon. And then we ended up not being that busy, and I told her to go ahead and go home. But yeah, we need a lot of people still. For some reason, we had more people signing up for shifts during the summer than we have signing up right now. We're really short on people right now for Court Watch, and it's just much more productive. And we know we're covering all our bases when we've got at least 3, but 5 or 6 is much better per shift.
Okay. What are court watchers to do if ICE shows up and detains someone?
Oh, that's what I forgot to say. In the event ICE does show up at court, we cannot, again, we can't stand in their way, anything like that. Our number one thing, call the Colorado Rapid Response Hotline. And I think Tiffany's either probably already dropped it in the chat.
Yeah, I've got it here.
And if you are in Colorado and you have not yet saved that number in your phone somewhere, save that number in your phone. It's 1-844-864-8341, because anywhere in the state of Colorado, if you're driving along or walking or somewhere and you think that looks like an ice thing, call that hotline number. If they've got confirmers available in that area, they will send them out to look and see and try to double check, is that really ice? I'm actually trained as a confirmer as well. So since I'm at Court Watch, a lot of us at Court Watch are already trained as corn confirmers as well. A confirmer, then what I would do as a confirmer is ask the person who says they are ice for identification. I want to know, you have said you are from ICE, but I really would like to see your identification so I can prove that you're from ICE and that you're not just kidnapping this poor person. And so there's a dialogue that we try to go along with them to ask for their information, their like manager's name, that kind of thing. We can't slow them down or anything like that, but what we can do is let everybody else know. This is why we need more volunteers, because if somebody upstairs on the third floor interacts with somebody from ICE, what we have is a signal chat and we say ICE third floor, then the person that's working downstairs at the entrance can tell people, we have confirmed ICE on the third floor. You may want to think about whether you want to go up there or not. But that's really all we can do is call the corn number and get confirmers to come and confirm. If we aren't already, most of us confirmers anyway. We can't stand in their way. We can't hold people back. We also, what we'll try to do if we're able to, I think I mentioned it before, ask the person being detained, who do you want us to contact on your behalf? Whether it be a family member, give us your name, your phone number, their phone number, and we will take care of that and tell them where you've been sent. That's what we try to do.
Solidarity Warriors just sent 1,000 whistles to Jeanette at the Colorado Immigrant Protection or Partnership team, so that she can distribute them to communities. I know that's something that's working in Chicago to alert neighbors when there's ice in the area.
Yes, the whistle program. Yes, and that's what the I think was mentioned before, the Signs of Solidarity. Signs of Solidarity is another group I've been working with, but we're trying to make businesses aware of their rights and how to protect their workers in the event of an ICE raid. So that's Signs of Solidarity.
Okay. Are ICE agents wearing body cams?
No, they don't. And
Okay.
because we're inside the courtroom or officially the court, we're not allowed to video or do any recording with our phones or anything. Once we're off of federal property, we can take any kind of video we want, but inside and especially in the courtroom area, we are not allowed to take any video. Although I probably would sneak it myself, but we won't say that I would. But no, they don't have any kind of body cameras or anything like that. We're usually about the only thing that there is a sign of a person is they kind of have a chip on their shoulder. Remember the guy with the Rayovac battery on his shoulder? I dare you to knock this battery. Kind of like that.
Okay. The next question is a little specific. It says Colorado's immigration civil rights laws state that no immigrant can be arrested going and coming from court. If they do arrest someone, it's because, per the court or judge, they have committed a crime or do not have the proper documentation or none. So are these laws being upheld or enforced?
That is a very good question. And I would say I don't have enough information to know for sure.
Okay. Then the next question is, do you have any connections to people who help people who are already in an ICE facility? This person has a nephew, and they're interested if there's a group that can help people that are already detained.
Are they here at Geo in Aurora or somewhere else?
That's all the information I have from the
Oh, okay,
question.
okay.
Good, yeah.
Yes, okay. There is a oh
I recommended Casa de Paz because
that
they sometimes are able to help with legal services. I also posted the name, phone number, and email for the attorney that I work for because he will do an evaluation of the case for free. He's definitely someone who's got his heart in the right place. He does, some pro bono and a lot of like low cost legal services for immigrants. But there are some immigration attorneys out there that are assholes, for a lack of a better word, and are just there to take people's money. He talked to a woman who had a family member up for a bond hearing. And so, just to file a motion in the bond hearing, this other firm wanted $8,000. And he told them bond is most likely going to get denied because bond isn't allowed right now. And so they would have paid $8,000 just for this motion. They weren't going to take on the rest of the case. And he said, I'll do the whole case however long it takes, which can be years, but he said he would do it for $6,000. So it's definitely worth calling him because he'll evaluate it over the phone for free for people.
Lena,
there's also a group that I know of, and I can't remember their name, and I think do y'all know V? I only know that her name is V.
No.
She has a group of folks and she organizes folks to go visit people at Geo. And I would almost say if you are able in some way to go to the Geo, what is it? Vigil that happens on Monday nights. It's from 6 until 8 p.m. every Monday night. There will be somebody there for sure that knows because I know V's always there.
Lena, did you have a relevant question that you wanted to
Yeah.
follow up with?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on this question of someone who has a loved one in detention. The other thing they can do is I'm a dispatcher for the Colorado Rapid Response Network. And so the other thing they can do is actually call the Rapid Response Network because we keep resources at hand. A lot of our calls aren't just we think we see ICE in action right now. A lot of the calls are I can't find my loved one and I want to try to find him or her somewhere. Can you help me figure out how to find them in the system? Or we're not sure about how to get legal help or what are appropriate next steps. And so there's only so much we can do, but we do have some resources about like helping people find their loved ones if they think they're somewhere in detention, like someone who just never came home, shockingly, right? And then also, we do keep a list of good players to what Tiffany was saying about lawyers that we know are good folks, right? And so there are some resources that Corn can provide as well. So that I would recommend that person call and talk to one of our dispatchers.
Good answer.
Thanks,
Thank you
Lena.
for putting your hand up.
Very good answer. Thank you, Lena.
So the next question we have is you said earlier that a lot of these people show up in court because somebody challenged their status here. Can a regular citizen challenge someone's status and make their life miserable? Who does that?
No, I think I might have misstated or came across wrong. It's not that they were challenged, it's just that they are somehow not here legally.
Okay.
It's not like oh, my neighbor. I'm like, no, it's not like the Patriot Act. No.
I've lived in places where neighbors would turn neighbors in, so that's where the question is. How long was your training and what was it like?
I think because I joined kind of early, it was very simple. It was pretty much they emailed me a document and told me to read over it and understand everything. And then I showed up for my first shift, and the lead for that shift then walked me through a lot of the ins and outs of the just kind of an orientation of the building, what we're looking for, and that kind of thing. So the training's not hard at all. There's actually now there's videos. So on the document, there's links for the videos. There is a vetting process that they go through. So if you're interested, I asked Tiffany to just provide my email address. If you're interested in signing up, contact me. I will send you the link to the interest form. And then once you fill out that form, I think they give you a call, and then they'll send you an email with all the training info.
Okay.
But training's really easy.
All right. The next question we have is somebody just signed up for legal observer training. We did a session on that last week. And they said, do you know if legal observers are part of court watchers? Like, do you have legal observers there the same way you would at a protest? And if you see any unlawful arrests by ICE or wrongdoings in the court, do you report them into who?
I believe we'd probably call our friends at Corn if we saw any wrongdoing. And legal observer, I believe there are probably people within Court Watch who are legal observers. They're not a part of, I mean, it's kind of like you can sign up for multiple different things. Being a legal observer and being Court Watch is definitely a good thing, because you can watch and know what's going on. Whereas me walking in, I'm like, I don't know what's going on half the time, but at least I can look and watch and make sure everything seems to be going along well. If I saw something going questionably, I would probably, as Lena said, I might call Corn first just to find out, and then go from there.
Okay. I think this got answered in the chat, but it says, how is it possible for someone to denaturalize? I think that is self-deportation, because my understanding is once you're naturalized, that's done.
Yeah.
But they are deporting people who are naturalized anyway, which is probably illegal, but that hasn't stopped them.
Yes. They're just snatching people. The cases where they're just snatching people, no matter what your status. We haven't seen any of that amongst the Court Watch folks. Most of that does appear to be happening in other states, based on what I know. But it's totally illegal for ICE to grab a citizen of the United States and put them in detention.
And just for the sake of clarity, naturalized means you are a naturalized citizen of the United States. It means you have legally finished the process and become a citizen. It would not be any different than ICE picking up somebody who was born in the United States at that point.
Correct.
What is the typical shift duration?
Typical shift duration is about 2 hours. So, for some reason that I sign, we've got 7:30 to 9:30, 9:30 to 11:30, and then there's a jump from 12 to 2, 1 to 3, just because by about 3, they've wrapped everything up for the day. Now they did just change some of the leads. If you're a lead for the shift, they just changed that to an hour, 2.5 hours. So today I had a 9:30 to noon shift, but it's not bad. My very first shift was actually I was thinking it was 12:30 to 2:30, my first shift. But the girl I was there with, she was there on her lunch, an extended lunch hour. So, then I've met some of the people who were on the 7:30 to 9:30 shift. They were able to come before work. So, you can kind of fit it in when you need to.
Okay. This is the last question I have in the chat. If anybody else has a question, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and we'll get them answered. If the people are coming to court for a hearing and they choose not to show up because ICE is there, or they suspect ICE is there and they're going to get grabbed, would they not be in more trouble after that?
Yes, they are in more trouble if they do not show up. I'm actually thought I had just read something.
I think they'll issue a warrant. They'll have a bench warrant for not showing up in court.
Yeah, so they need to show up is the problem. I can't find where I read it. I just read it that they have to show up, but it can give people just that extra level of security, knowing that we're there watching out for them, and we'll let them know if something funky's going on.
Okay. What courthouse districts, counties do the observers go to? Is it just the Denver County courts?
Yes. Court Watch is actually just it's not Denver County, it's federal. So Immigration Court is a federal court, and it is the one that is downtown on Stout Street. There is also court that is in the Geo Detention Center, but we as Court Watch can't go to that one. If you are those people who are in Geo, which means they are in detained, so it's prison, they can request a court accompaniment. So if you're trained as a court accompanier, you can go and be with them at their court date within the Geo facility. I've never been called to do that, but I've heard that people have been called to do that. And Geo facility is much harder to get into. And it's prison. So we can't get in to do that one. So the only place in the state of Colorado for immigration is the federal immigration court in downtown Denver. There's actually people who come in from out of state because this is the closest immigration court to them.
Okay. Where'd my list go? What do the Democratic governors or state officials have over ICE? Do they have any power or authority whatsoever? I mean, look at what's happening in Illinois.
I don't know. Actually, that's not a good question for me. I don't know. But yeah, just watching what's happening in other states, and being that ICE is a function of the federal government, I don't know how much state government has over them.
They don't, unfortunately. The most that we can do is prosecute local law enforcement for collaborating or cooperating with ICE because legally in Colorado they're not allowed to, but Our state legislators, and the governor and attorney general unfortunately don't have any control over the federal ICE forces.
Thank you, Tiffany.
And then the last question is, what does the full day schedule for hearings? Is it 7 to 5, certain days of the week? Are they busier, more needed?
I haven't seen a pattern of like some days being busier than others. There towards I think it was like end of August, there were a couple of judges that were let go out at the Geo facility, and so there seemed to be a shifting of a lot of the cases because they had to go to like virtual cases downtown so that they could do cover the Geo courts as well as the regular. And so when they do that, we're not allowed in those courtrooms. But other than that, there's not like it's heavier in the morning or in the afternoon or on certain days. They do observe federal holidays. So so Veterans Day is coming up. They won't have court on Veterans Day, that kind of thing. But the actual dockets, they actually in the morning are listed at 8:30 and 9 o'clock. And then the afternoons, they're listed for 12:30, 1, or 1:30. But the docket itself can have like 50 people listed at 1:30. So they just kind of start at the top of the list and go down, and it'll take all afternoon.
Okay, and then why were those judges let go from Geo Court?
I don't know. I mean, I heard there was one let go for some, I don't know, fired, and then another one just decided to retire. So it just put an undue, I mean, not undue, but more weight for the other judges. So, it seems that there are certain judges that are assigned to be the downtown ones and certain ones that are assigned to be the ones at Geo, and they can cover for each other virtually, but, yeah, I'm not completely sure, but I know one retired.
I know Trump has been firing immigration judges that aren't helping him with his plan to deport everyone in America. So,
Yes.
he's been firing immigration judges, like long-time experienced immigration judges that are more sympathetic to immigrants and replacing them with military judges who know absolutely nothing about immigration court.
Or people.
Mm-hmm.
You mean that you have feelings? Oh, sorry. Was that out loud? I also heard that that he fired the head guy at ICE and Centennial, I think, because he wasn't
Okay.
doing enough arresting or whatever.
Yeah, they're replacing him with Customs and Border Patrol people because
Mhm.
they are apparently more evil than ICE officials.
Yeah. Oh, and I just have to say this. In the waiting room up there, um, you have your guard. He's just a regular guard making sure everything's safe. So, but there's the picture of the president and the vice president up on the wall, way up on the wall. And I have to say, I was looking at it. I can't look at it really, but just glancing up at it, I'm like, it looks like a Satan and a demon looking down on you the way those pictures look. It's pretty ugly. Maybe just personal opinion, but
Yeah.
of all things to have to look at when you go to court, it's just sick. But in all actuality, it's I should just say that it's easy to volunteer. Once you get the interest form filled out and all of that, then you can just go pick your own shift, whatever fits your schedule. And I have just made it kind of my goal to do it at least once a week. And just because it works out for me, Wednesdays is my day. And I kind of watch other people kind of tend to do the same thing. And or jump in when they need extra people. But we are in a lot of need right now for more volunteers just because we're not covering the shifts right now. And we could use a lot of help in doing that. And it is probably easier for folks who don't appear like someone ICE would want to pick up to cover court watch shifts. And I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory way towards anybody, but it's just for safety's sake.
Okay, that is the end of the questions that I have. Is there anything else? No.
And then I really don't have anything else. We do. Some of the leads have contacts within other states, so we try to see what other states are doing for their court watches. And in general, we kind of reevaluate things about once a month to make sure we're still doing things effectively. But as an organization, if Court Watch has kind of grown into its own little organization, and it's really a great group of people trying to do something good.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'm so glad you were able to come and answer all these questions tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. And again, if anyone has any questions, just holler at me.
Many people said thank you in the chat. Is there anything that anyone else would like to discuss tonight? Otherwise we can wrap it up a little bit early tonight.
Can you guys hear me?
Actually, yes.
Yes, we can.
So, well, I can't figure out how to get the video going, but I do have a question. I mean, there's so much information that you gave out tonight and information that probably crisscrosses with everything that is said. And I'm just curious, with all the questions that are being asked and like for instance, the documentation that immigrants need. I mean, actually getting that documentation and putting it on a website and or so people know what it looks like. I mean, I'm just listening to this and going, wow, this is a plethora of visual and knowledgeable information. And I guess my question is whether there's documentation of the questions and actually writing out what the answer is, and trying as much information, one question as possible. I don't know. I think the more we know, that's too much information. But I think educated on it, the more we know, the more direction we have. That makes sense.
Yeah,
so.
unfortunately, a lot of it is stuff that you really need an attorney to navigate. The Rocky Mountain Immigrant Advocacy Network, RMIAN, has a lot of good resources, so I put their website in the chat. Some of the forms that you have to fill out, there are like instructions. Let me find that website and I'll post that to you.
And
Yeah, I'm just listening to this and it's like, wow, there has to be some order here. I mean, because it's just like, okay, we got this here and this here and this here and this here, and I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to organize it in my head, and I'm having a hard time organizing it. So,
well, I have to say I
and
might have been a
knowing which
little discombobulated tonight too.
No. It has nothing to, no, and I'm finding that on, on websites and all of that. And it's, sometimes I'm like, okay, which direction do I need to go?
I I guess
Or,
the way
or
I would
how can
describe
I,
it, and I hope this connects with people. It's a little like getting a mortgage, where the documents that you're going to need for your mortgage are going to be unique to your situation and what you're doing. And
right.
having a lawyer or an agent guide you through it, because everybody's going to need something different. So you can't just say you need this document or that document. Is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Well, no, I'm just that the document component was just an example. It was, there's a lot that entails the documentation and all of that. Um, if a person came up to you and you're standing outside and trying to help this person, you know, wouldn't it, you want to give them to the direction of where they need to go. Yes. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to put it all together. There's information about documentation. There's information about how to direct people to different areas. There's information. I mean, there was a lot to absorb this evening. So, just wondering, maybe trying to have it a little more organized so that we can go. Is there a website with all of this? I mean, keeping
I
track of the
posted
questions,
I posted a few different websites in the chat. I
right?
also send out a follow-up email each weekend that'll have all these links in it and might be a more organized way to look at everything.
Okay.
I
Okay.
see Lena's hand up. I want to know what she has to say since she's corn.
All right.
Hey guys, I just wanted to respond to that really good, like complicated question. I'm sorry, I missed who was the name of who was talking, but I think, sorry, say your name again.
Joe.
Joe.
Joe, okay. Hey, Joe, I think you asked such a good question. And I just want to throw another piece into the mix. I think I'm saying this as a white native born person, right? I think a lot of the times and I'm also a nurse. So like when I see a patient or I see someone who is an immigrant who is trying really hard to establish themselves in this country and to do everything the right way, I kind of want to come at them like as a social worker or as a nurse and be like, let me help you figure out your paperwork and figure out what you need, right? And I think that is great. And I also have to know my limits because I'm not a lawyer. All of those things get very complicated because everyone's situation is differently. And I want to add one other thing, which is that not everyone in this country has a pathway to citizenship. And so this is also a political problem. And that's why I think it's so important that we're here with Solidarity Warriors and that we're part of this group, because I've started to say to people, if you don't like that there are undocumented people in this country, then let's get them documents, right? But to make that happen, we have to have a political system that believes that the people who are here and contributing to our society belong here. And I believe that with all of my heart, but we don't have currently a legal pathway for millions of people in this country. And so like what I struggle with is that there is no magical set of paperwork for tons of people that I know. And we need people to start seeing that that's a political decision made to scapegoat immigrants so that we are not paying attention to what is going on in attempts to take over our democracy, and that we need to have massive political reform that lets folks who live here be participating in our country, right? And so like I just want to add that into the mix. Like I don't think there is like one website where one set of documents is going to meet everybody's needs, because we have people who are purposefully being pushed out of our political system and out of our civic system, who have no vote, who have no say. And we really need to fight to change that. And that's a political question. Does that kind of make sense? Like I think that's really important to say. Like we need more pathways to citizenship for more people in this country.
And at the same time, I just want to throw in there too, there are lawyers and there are immigration judges that have done this their entire lifetime. And because these processes and procedures are always in a state of flux, no one person knows it all, unfortunately. And that's one of the problems that I have been able to witness as being a person with CourtWatch is the process is so insanely difficult. And
Yeah.
just to watch these poor families having to go through all of this is just heartbreaking. And knowing that our political system doesn't give them a way to just be here legally.
Right. Yep.
All right, B. Thomas, thank you for being patient. Go ahead and ask your question. You're muted.
Okay, now can you hear me? Hi.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna kind of break the stream here with a different topic. I want to bring up Robert B. Reich, who used to be the former labor secretary for Bill Clinton back in the 90s. He has a class, it's a filmed class that actually he taught for 13 years at Berkeley. It's called The Last Class. And out here from Aspen to Parachute, where Mountain Action Individual is coordinating all of our events that we have. And in Carbondale on November 11th, you can buy tickets to see this class. And it talks, Robert Reich is an economist, and he started actually in his 20s, in the 60s. He went to Harvard. He was an economist, and I'm currently reading his book called Coming Up Short. Oh, whoops, that's blurry. Why did it do that? There we, oops. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know it was going to do this. Anyway, it's a memoir of my America. Now, if you're like me and you were born in the late 50s, you kind of wonder what the hell has been happening the last 30, 40 years and how did we get here? And this is exactly what Robert talks about in his book. He's known Bill Clinton and all them for a long time when they went somewhere overseas. But I really have been having a hard time dealing with how did we get here? And I used to think it was all in my head that as a working single mother from the 70s through the 90s, that I couldn't get ahead in anything. Nothing there, my pay was stagnant. I thought, oh, I'll get my degrees, my bachelor, my master's, and I'll make more money. It's not about that at all. And I'm just going to try to stay focused here on the main topics. But I was really dealing with how are we going to get Trump removed by just peaceful protests. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know who remembers the apartheid in the 90s. And back then I participated only by not buying products, and I still do not buy those products today that supported apartheid. But I happened to read on a Wikipedia, and I'm using Google now just to refresh my memory, but it was the African National Congress, a political party, through peace rallies, through how do I want to say it? When you boycott something, don't go to work. That was how apartheid was removed in South Africa, was by these peaceful protest groups and boycotting, not going to work. And I'm sure there's maybe some things I'm not getting quite correct here, because I just found this so amazing. Because, apartheid kind of died back in the 90s. I never heard anything. I didn't know it was solved. It just kind of went off into the wind. And I got curious about it because I used to support that. And it relates a lot today, what is going on. I mean, they went in and they wiped out, they segregated people and moved them into camps also. So it gives me hope that by doing these peaceful rally protests, and as we keep growing and getting closer and closer to that 3.5%, we are going to be able to remove Trump. Right now, Cliff Cash, a comedian, he's staging the November 20th through the 22nd in DC to remove Trump. Today, Jolly Ginger had people show up today to protest to remove Trump. So in my heart of hearts, I believe we are all doing the right thing. And why I brought this book up was because it explains how the inequality gap has grown so much and what laws, and when they let me start over. When they deregulated investment banking, I don't know if anybody knows that, but I used to never pay attention to politics. I used to trust the people I voted for, they were smart, intelligent, and they were going to do everything right for me. And that is not what Washington is about. Washington is about, it wasn't about working for the people. Eventually, when some of the deregulation laws happened, and what I'm getting ready to say actually happened before that, but Paul, my mind just went blank. Paul Lewis had sent out a memo to all the CEOs in these investment banking firms, the CEOs that made millions. And back then they used to get taxed over 90%. Their businesses, they had to pay the taxes. And thanks to Reaganomics, he helped lower that the first time for them. And then it just kind of kept going down after that. Now they're only paying a little over 27% taxes. But the thing is that in Washington, this memo that went out telling CEOs and Wall Street to invest heavily in their political opponents. This was like back in 71. And I don't remember this. I'm just reading this from this book that Richard reading. It's educating me. I'm studying it. It wasn't just Paul Lewis. I know I'm probably not saying that right. And then there was Larry Summers. There was John Rubin. Newt Gingrich, he was one bad apple, though there was also Nixon. And from all this time reading from the 60s, and then this memo gets sent out to all these executives, these CEOs that get paid millions in bonuses. They start getting, the lobbyists start coming in. They start donating millions and millions of dollars to their candidate that is going to do what they want for them. And Reaganomics thought, okay, well, we'll cut the taxes back from the rich so that those companies can invest more in their employees. But that's not what they did. And so while incomes stagnated and inflation or cost of living continued to rise, because by now the billionaires at the 1% top back then and through the last 40 years have been raking in millions and billions of dollars. And when the recession hit, I bought my home here in 2009 in Battlement Mesa for 171. And by 2010, it was down to 40K. And so I had just finished reading when the deregulation of investment banking, it brought down the house of cards, so to speak, is how I understand it, that it was just one big Ponzi scheme. And so many things fell apart. Millions of people lost their jobs, homes. People, there was like over 11 million foreclosures. I hope I'm quoting that correctly. I might be wrong. But it helped me to see, okay, it wasn't my imagination, because here I've been trying to get ahead and make a decent living, even with my degrees and now student loans that I have to pay off. And I'm no better. I'm doing better in retirement than I did when I was working. I mean, I'm still bringing home the same money, but it just made me think about the politics. It's not about immigration. They're using immigration right now as a smokescreen to cover up what's really going on. And it's causing people to be distracted. I have a legal immigrant neighbor. His wife is legally coming here in January. I said, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for you. And he's like, I'm not worried about it. So I don't know what everybody else is picking up on, what vibes. I mean, we obviously cannot continue down this road of the same politics that we've been fettering with since 71. And from billionaires having to pay over 90% in taxes, now is paying less than 20% taxes. As a matter of fact, when they first lowered the tax rate for billionaires, it tripled the deficit. I didn't know that.
I like your point, and we agree with. We have talked about this several times, but specifically the structural inequality, the stagnant wages, and the redistribution of wealth up is
Right.
a topic that we can have a specific meeting about, and I will put it on my list of things to bring up because you are right. It is fundamentally what is leading to everything else. And we also have talked several times about all of the horrible things this administration is doing to distract people from the real ways that they are destroying our democracy and destroying our society. If you are interested in the nonviolent resistance part of it, we do have a Saturday morning education class that is now in its third semester, and they are going back and studying nonviolent resistance movements through history and how they can be applied to today. But our group, I mean, our last several meetings have been about legal observers and court watch, but much of what we do is talk about exactly the things you're talking about that people aren't saying in the media, that aren't saying out loud, that, all of this comes from the wealth and the powerful wanting to become more wealthy and more powerful at the expense of the people, and what we can do about it. We are very action oriented about saying, all right, we've gone out and we've organized these big protests, but what has that gotten us? Well, if we need to get to a point where, like in apartheid, where the administration needs to be pressured and changed, how do we do that? What is the next step beyond going on a march and going from there to removing this president from power and stopping the damage that things are going on? That is what our group is all about. So I would say stay tuned and you will hear more about that in our coming meetings. And if you look back into the meetings that we have on YouTube, we did an entire meeting on the general strike and how we can organize that. We've done meetings on how to start your own group. We've done meetings on how to protest and what can be done beyond protesting. We've talked about it in a variety of different ways, and I'm always happy to talk about it because it's one of those things that's near and dear to my heart. Because to me, the goal is very clear. There is a straight line to what needs to be done, and that is we cannot allow this administration to continue doing what it's doing. And it's tearing the Constitution up, and it's tearing the fabric of our society apart, and it's tearing our democracy apart. And we are here to say we're not going to let that happen. So I mean, I could go on for hours about where to go from here. But let me just say, I agree with you, and that there will be more information on what to do as we organize those things. We were central to organizing the No Kings 2 protests in Denver, and we are going to continue organizing those things. Like I put in the chat, on November 10th, we're organizing a vigil at a detention facility, and we are going to continue doing this work until we win.
Well, I have a couple questions on that too. And you said the Saturday class. So yeah, I'm interested in that because I encourage anybody to read this book, Coming Up Short by Robert Reich. If you are wondering about how some of the things that have happened over the last 30 years, especially now, it's all about Trump it's not anymore to him about money. It's control. And I see him as just like a big Pac-Man with bite by bite. And he's not going to stop with the United States. He's going to keep going, trying to get control of everything. That's his dimensional demented
He
mindset
is
right
a
now.
fascist dictator, and we treat him as such. He is a fascist dictator, and we treat
Yeah,
him as such. And I would expect him to go and invade Austria, and then
right.
Czechoslovakia, and then Poland, and then this is what we expect.
Yeah, and you know what? Until I read, I really didn't think we could do it in America by just protest by no violence. I was thinking, nope. I know I can't say what I really want to say, but I just thought there's just no way peaceful protest is going to do it. There's no way that boycotts are going to do it. We're going to have to forcibly remove him. And until I read about the African National Congress, I got to thinking about apartheid, and I'm like, it can be done. And it's a step-by-step process, and it's a factor of learning and educating yourself. Because I used to think the people in the White House, the administrations, were the smartest people alive, and they had my best interests at heart, and they never have.
No.
Never.
And we started this group to teach the people who didn't know that step-by-step process how to walk through that step-by-step process. And that is what we do, and that is one of the primary focuses of our group. But I do need to go on. Cynthia's got a question that she's been asking,
Okay.
waiting
Thank you, though.
patiently for. If you do have more, feel free to send us an email. And like I said, we are already looking at future topics that will incorporate a lot of this.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for letting me speak.
You're welcome. We love to hear people's voice. Go ahead, Cynthia. Cynthia, you're muted if you're trying to speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I got it. Okay. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, first of all, I want to thank you guys so much. I'm here in Virginia in the middle of a very red county, and I am so happy that Spanberger won last night. One thing I wanted to remind people is that one of the ways that we fight back is financially and hit them in their pocketbooks. And upcoming, we all know that the Black Friday and the weekends with the Cyber Monday are like the biggest sale, spent money making days of the year for corporate America. And I don't know how many are planning on participating in the blackout from Black Friday through Cyber Monday, and not spending any money, not going to work if you don't have to, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's a great idea, especially not spending any money, because we have got to hit them where it hurts in their pockets. And I think that's a great time to do it because so much money is spent over that weekend. So anybody that can plan ahead with their Christmas shopping and be looking for bargains now and not be waiting and depending on those Black Friday specials and find something to do with your family on Friday besides shopping, I think is a good way that individuals who don't get to do a lot of things, you can fight back that way with your money. Hold on to it. Don't let them have it. And they're counting on that money coming in that weekend because it's such a big fund, a big money making weekend. And I'm sorry, I'm tired. I'm not making much sense, but I hope you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And I certainly feel your pain. I spent a lot of time in Missouri as a bright red state, and feeling like I was the only Democrat, liberal, left leaning person in the entire area.
Yeah,
And we've talked a little bit about that too earlier on, about if you do live in a red state, what are the things that you can do? Because we do have people from all over the country here, and it's not just, those of us who are lucky enough to be in blue states needing or wanting to do something. And it is just as important to know what you can do in a red state as what you can do in a blue state. And,
exactly.
congratulations on your new governor.
Oh, thank you. We're so excited. We're so excited. Fortunately, I live close enough to Charlottesville, which is this little blue lake in the middle of a big red sea, a little blue um, um, floaty in the middle of a big red sea. But I stay as active as I can and do what I can, even as individual, and just trying to stay engaged. But I just thank you guys so much for saving my sanity, because without you, I would have lost my shit a long time ago. Excuse my language, but I was on the verge of a breakdown before I found you. And
That is
Colorado's my
what
home,
solidarity is
so
all about.
Colorado's my home. So I stick with you guys because I love you and you stay active. And I just keep saying, I want to go back. I want to go back. So thank you. Thank you for everything that you do.
You're welcome. And we can take you out of Colorado, but you can't take the Colorado out of you. So bring it to
Oh,
Virginia.
no. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I may be back. I may be back. All right. Thank you so
My
much.
laptop just
You're
crashed.
welcome. All right, it is now 7:35. If there isn't anything else, I think we can finish up and talk to you all next week. And Tiffany is a perfect model for all of our hats and t-shirts
Nice.
and everything. So keep an eye out for it.
Have a great
Thank you
night,
so much, you
everyone.
guys. Have a great week.